Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, y'all. Happy Faith, Purpose, Profit Monday. A time where I connect with you live to walk you through how you should be living, connecting faith with purpose and profit. Only if you want to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. I'm always excited to be here with you to pour more and more into you. So I see somebody already knows what to do. When you come in, as you're coming in, tell me hello. Tell me name and where you're joining from. I'm trying to pull it up over here, but my iPad is being extra today. So if you are in my Facebook group, let me tell you, I won't see your name. So come on over to fpplive.live. Those of you that are here with me live, come on over there so I can see your name and see who you be. So come on in again and tell me name and where you're from. I'm trying to pull up my page really quickly, y'all. There it is. Oops. All right, iPad, don't start with me today. Okay, and the only reason I'm doing this is I want to be able to see your comments. Sometimes I can't see your comments that far away because, listen, I need to have on my readers, which I will not wear. They're right here, but I refuse to wear them. I'm going to show you the nerve. I have readers, y'all. Anyway, so with that said, welcome to this episode. So we are continuing with the series that we started some weeks ago. Hey, Nikki and Renata and Yolanda, y'all keep coming in and saying hello. So as I share with you a couple of things. One, if you have questions, I want you to post, those of you that are watching this live. If I step on your toes, I want to know if what I'm saying is good to you. Give me some hearts, give me some fire emojis, because ultimately I'm here for you. Even if you're watching the replay, please still post questions, because as I continue in this series and series that we do in the future, I really do look to what you need, because I'm here to pour into you. Okay. So as we continue with a 5-part series, today is part 4. So that 5-part series is called More Money, More Purpose. And I wonder if you realize that money really allows you to do more in this world. Money is energy. Energy goes where energy flows. And so we really want to look at, and we've been looking at how money flows through your life. So I'm going to give you a quick review. So week 1 was More Money, More Purpose. I started with this foundational Bible verse, which is 2 Corinthians 9:10, that says, now may he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food supply and multiply the seed you've sown and increase the fruits of your righteousness. You know, it's interesting. Every week when I read that Bible verse, I feel like I get even more context to that. Let me read it again. Now, may he who supplies, God is the one that supplies the seed. You know, the seed that's in you is your DNA, your distinct natural ability. It's the way that God wired you to live on assignment. I need y'all to get this. So you get seed to the sower. So you got to sow the seed. And bread for food. Supply and multiply the seed you have sown and increase the fruits of your righteousness. See, God is our supplier. He's giving you everything you need at birth, but he's not going to grow it. He's not going to cultivate it. He's not going to water it. You've got to do the work. And when you get clear on the work that he created you to do, that's how you do more in this world. Listen, the thing I think is interesting is for us to look at the times that we're in. God knew the specific time he was having you be created. He knew you'd be born and COVID would be happening. He knew that we all be on pause, even though we're coming out more and more of the pause. But when we first went in 2020, I believe that pause was really for us to reflect. He sat us all the way down and gave us time, more time than we've ever had, to look at our lives. And that's really the ultimate reason why I did this series. It's because what I know for sure is the more money you create, the more you can do with what God has created you to do. So week 1, we talked about that. We dug in because, again, God is our supplier. By the way, supplier in the dictionary says, it's the definition, a person or organization that provides something needed. A person or organization that supplies something needed. God knew how people would need you. That's why he gave you the supply of your DNA, your distinct natural ability. So that was week 1. Week 2, it was called Our Own Living Trust. Now listen, the main purpose of a living trust is the transfer of assets. And you're the beneficiary. God transferred the assets of your purpose to you. Oh, I dug deep, and that was right around Easter. And so we even talked about the resurrection and how Jesus was God's sacrifice. He sacrificed first. Then we talked about stewardship, speaking of sacrifice. At first, God gave first. Week 3, which was last week, we talked about giving God a great ROI, a return on his investment in you. When you die and get to meet God face to face, listen, I don't want God to say to me, girl, go back, you're not done. I invested so much in you and you did nothing with it. There's a quote that I actually heard Steve Harvey say this, but I know he didn't create this quote. He said that 98% of people die. 98% of people die only using 5% of their gifts and talents. Listen, when I die, I want to have used 100%. I want to play full out. I want all my gifts and talents to be used in glorifying God. So giving God a great ROI, and I dug into that, and I'm not going to go all into that, but I really want you to think about how are you giving God a great return on his investment. So listen, if you missed any of those conversations, I want to encourage you to go back into my podcast. Every Friday, I do a wrap up of our conversations for the week. So you can catch up, go to fpppodcast.com. So we're starting, this episode is episode 4. And it's called Put Some Respect on It. Now, it should be Put Some Respect on It for those of you that know where I got that from. But, I had to act like I have some grammar and be grammatically correct. Put some respect on it. So I want you to really get this. If the love of money is the root of all evil, respect takes love to a whole new level. It adds the extra on it. That gives honor and admiration. So, I saw this quote, and this quote really inspired this episode. Here's the quote. Now, I don't even know who said this. I have this written down. When I see quotes I like, I just keep them. And so I stumbled on this. And then, what's interesting with Revelation? I think so many people think prophetic prophecy is that God, you have to hear his voice. Sometimes God just drops a word in your spirit, and you're like, oh my God, that's good. Well, when I read this quote the first time, something happened in my spirit, so I saved it. I didn't know when I was going to use it. And then I remembered it. I couldn't remember what it said, but I found it to share with you today. And it says this: there will be times in your life when you have to choose between being loved and being respected. Always pick being respected. That love without respect is always fleeting, but that respect could grow into real lasting love. And I really want you to think about that. So as we really look at putting some respect on it, because I think when you look at the love of money is the root of all evil, when you put some respect on not the money, but the supplier of it. And if God is our supply, how are you using that supply to add to the kingdom? So if I own Staples and I'm looking for a supplier that has pens, let's say, because there's a pen in front of me, or paper clips. If I find someone that has paper clips and we have a great relationship, I'm going to always respect that relationship and go back over and over and over and over again. Think about what that looks like. When you are, so like for instance, I use my husband for an example. My husband is my best friend. So I have such deep admiration and respect for him because of who he is as a man. And it's because of that that I fell in love with him. Do you get that? It wasn't about his bank account. Because let me tell y'all, if he was seeing the car he was driving me first for dating, I hope he can hear me too. Yeah, it was not love. I mean, it wasn't bank account, right? But I respected his heart. And that's all God is looking for us to do, to honor who he is. So to really bring this to context, I have 2 questions and 5 areas you got to really honor God and to put some respect on it. So these 2 overarching areas, and then I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps, okay? So it's confusing, but stick with me. Take notes. So first question, and really area you got to look at is, are you following God's plan for your life? Are you following God's plan for your life? In other words, are you taking God seriously? I think so many of us live on autopilot, that we might have had a plan. So listen, even if I use my life for an example, when I first started in my career back in the 90s, when I graduated from college, my undergraduate degrees in TV and film, and I knew I was meant to work in television and film, loved it. But God had another plan for me. Those of you that have been in my community for a while, I talk about this all the time, that purpose matriculates. So listen, God never expects for us to live on one level. My pastor, Isaac Petrie, says we grow on levels and live through stages. So you don't stay on one level your whole entire life. So when God was calling me to my next, I didn't know what it could possibly be because I loved my job. And what I had to realize is that God had more for me. So do I choose perception? Do I choose judgment? Do I choose my undergraduate degree? Do I choose all the lists my name was on? Do I choose all the money I was making in my 20s? And girl, let me tell you, those of you that know that I do like to shop, I'm not going to even lie, that I could shop when I wanted to. I got into every party. Listen, I went to Prince Glam Slam opening night. I can tell you stories of all the things I went to. And those of you that know me know that Prince is my first husband. And I was on stage like this, wishing that he would look at me, but he was on stage with his then wife. But anyway, my point is, I had to really take a moment and sit with myself and ask myself, do I want to go after what the world says, or do I want to go after what God says? Romans 12:2. Now I'm saying this by my heart. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's either 12:2 or 12:1. Whoever's with me, correct me. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed. You know why? Transformation is ever changing. Conforming means you're settling. So if I would have stayed in entertainment, mind you, love it, I see how God is using it. What's that Bible verse say? All things work together for the good. Not a few things, not a couple things. It's all things. Thank you, Yolanda. 12:2, Romans 12:2. And so you've got to really understand that God is always going to have a new level for you. So when you're done and complete and it's easy and you've made it, guess what? God's going to start knocking on your heart. Some of you guys, that's happening to you right now. And the reason it's happening is God has more for you to do. So what I realized is really I'm a purpose producer. I can say that now. I produced. That's what I learned. I did casting and production in TV and film. God used that for another platform. My purpose hasn't shifted. It expanded. But are you taking the time to really get to know what that is? One of my other favorite, well, not that other one wasn't my favorite quote, but one of my favorite quotes, and I hope I say this right, from the movie The Color Purple. Now, you guys will remember this scene probably because just about everybody has seen The Color Purple. Let me take a sip of water. It was a scene where Suge and Celia are walking through the home that Celia now owns. Remember, Celia ended up owning her dad's house or inheriting it. And Suge says, and I'm not going to quote it exactly, I think this is what she says. She said, I think it pisses off God when you walk by the color purple. That's funny, and I have on purple today. I think it pisses God off when you walk by the color purple, right? And you don't acknowledge it. So I want you to think about that. If I took purple and said, I think it pisses God off when you walk past your purpose and you don't acknowledge it. You don't acknowledge who you are. You don't acknowledge all the time God crafted to create you. You settle for good enough. You tell God, I don't want to do that. I don't want more. I want to sit in complacency. I want to be in mediocre. Do you take your purpose seriously? So that's the first thing I really want you to think about. Revelations 4:11 says this. You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power. You created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. So when you start to realize, when I started to realize that God created me with purpose, on purpose, and that there are people tied to that purpose that need me, then it makes me feel mediocre and complacent that I'm not willing to do whatever it takes to be the servant that God has created me to be. Because I'm here to serve you. Many of you are here because I'm meant to serve you. And I'm clear. And when I get clear and uncompromising about my purpose, I give you the space to be clear and uncompromising about yours. So do you take your purpose seriously? Are you being deliberately mediocre? First question I'm going to ask you. Now, here are the 5 ways, and I want you to check each of these 5. Now, the first 3 I talked about last week and last episode. Again, if you missed the episode from last week, go back and listen to it, fpppodcast.com. Because the way I teach, by the way, is I build one subject on the next. So you almost need the previous subject to understand this subject. And let me tell you, I'm going to tell you right now, our last subject, because next week is our last episode, let me tell you, I already know, because God has given me little hints. He pours it in. I try to keep up. Anyway, so let me focus on this week. So Here are the 5 areas you really want to check that you're honoring God. So again, the first 3 I talked about yesterday, or not yesterday, sorry, last week. And I'm going to dig into the next 2 in part 1 and then part 2. I'll tell you where you get part 2. Okay. So number 1, are you honoring God with your time? Talked about this last week. I'm not going to go into detail, but you've got to realize you have the same amount of time in your day that Oprah does, that Tyler Perry does, that President Obama does, that anybody you greatly admire does. Are you being fruitful? And are you increasing with your time? You've got to honor God in the second area with your talents. That's your purpose. That's why he gave you purpose. He put you here on assignment. You know, I always like to think of myself as Jasmine Bond. I used to love 007 when I was little. I used to always want to play that when I was little. But anyway, right? So are you honoring God with your talents? The third is, are you honoring God with your treasure? So here is the bridge between the first 3 and number 4. Now, again, if you didn't hear me talk about the first 3, go back and watch last week's episode. Again, first is time. Are you honoring God with your time? Are you honoring God with your talent? Are you honoring God with your treasure, your money? So here's the bumper between the 2, between those 3 and number 4. So I'm getting ready to dig into number 4 in part 1, and then we'll dig into part 5 and part 2. So the fourth area, let me say this Bible verse first. Matthew 6:21 says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So are you honoring God with your heart? So in our previous series, I talked about what are your motives. And I really, really need you to understand this. Your heart is the source of everything. Matthew 12:34 says this, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if your heart is a source of everything, then your thoughts, your words, your feelings, your actions all come from the basis of your heart. Some of you guys have had a heart attack and don't even know it. I'm not talking about a physical heart attack as we know it, but you've gone through so many things, and especially, and dare I say, my sisters that are with me, we as Black women will go through things and pile things on top of each other and say, oh, I'm okay, but you're not okay. And then it trickles into you starting your business, and you wonder why your business isn't working. Because your business can never outgrow you. So wherever your heart health is, there your business will be. So I need you to check yourself. So I'm going to give you a couple of Bible verses, and I'm going to walk through some areas I want you to look at when we look at your heart. Because whether you realize it or not, your heart is under attack. Let me say it to you like this. You know that the enemy is coming to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. God has come that you have life and have it more abundantly. The way the enemy is going to attack you is in your heart. Because out of the heart is where abundance comes from. I just read this Bible verse somewhere. There it is. How can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if he can get you in your heart, in your soul, then he realizes that your actions will be in alignment with where he's attacking you. So I'm going to give you some Bible verses to ponder. And here's the first one, Luke 6:45. This is Jesus talking. He says, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good. And an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. It's like he says this over and over. Even King Solomon said in Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Let me read that over because I messed it up. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. So think about what a spring is, you guys. Think about it. Or a lake or a river or what have you. It's a steady flow. So when it's in a good flow, it's going to continue to have that stream. You know, that's when, and I know I love to sit by water and I love to hear just the trickle of the water go through. That's the flow. When something is impeding the flow, it gets jammed up and stopped. And that's when, you guys remember when New Orleans had the Hurricane Katrina and all the dams burst? Well, something was stopping the flow of the water. The same thing happens with your heart. If something toxic is put in the water, then the water is toxic. Same thing with your heart. So I need you to check your heart and look at, are you holding on to grudges or anger? Because what will happen is, and especially in business, listen, people are going to do you wrong in business. If I had, you guys don't have enough time for me to tell you how many times people have done me wrong. But if I stay bitter and not get better and learn the lesson so I don't go through that again, then what happens is I stay stuck there. And God will keep you there. Listen, God is going to let you live on whatever level you settle for. That includes you staying stuck in negative emotion that then dictates the action you take. Are there people that have treated me wrong? And I've seen them at events and we're both speakers. And I say, hey, girl, and I keep going, you're not going to mess up my calling because of something you did or a choice you made or way you treated me. That's their business. Oh, I'm not going to stoop to their level. I'm going to let them stay right where they are. What did Michelle Obama say? When they go low, we go high. But you got to realize this happens in your business. And even when we go back to that Will Smith incident, when Denzel said, you got to be careful when you are rising is when the devil comes for you. So you've got to be mindful. As it says in 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He does it through anger or grudges. He does it through bitterness. He does it through guilt or shame. So whether you've been raped, whether you've been abused, I need you to understand that was that person's decision. And I'm not minimizing how it makes you feel, but don't let the enemy keep you stuck in what they did to you. You make a different choice for yourself and go get the help you need. Listen, you need prayer and you need counseling. And I've been to counseling. Trust and believe. I got a counselor on speed dial now. And so many people say, well, I'm going to pray about it and pray about it. But if we didn't need counselors, God would have never given somebody the gift of counseling. So let them do their purpose and let them help you. I was watching Oprah and Viola Davis's interview on Netflix. I'm not going to tell you the conversation they had. But who Viola Davis is now because she got help. If you guys haven't watched that special, it was so good. If you have Netflix, go watch it. And I had no idea all the things she went through in her childhood. And to look at who she be because she made a different choice. She didn't stay in anger. She didn't stay in bitterness. She didn't stay in shame. Even guilt. When you're already doing really, really well and the enemy makes you feel guilty because you want more. This was me for years. And by the way, I've had anger, I've had grudges, I've had bitterness and guilt. Because how dare I want more? But it's not me that wants more. It's God calling me out to more. You've got to know the difference and check your heart. So you know the difference. It's not being greedy. It's me being in alignment with what I'm being assigned to do next. There's a difference. Even fear. The enemy will use fear to stop you in your tracks. I realize now that anytime I'm afraid, it's an opportunity for me to either stop and not do it and let my fear paralyze me, or it's an opportunity for me to trust God fully and completely. I think God puts us in situations, I know, so that we have to rely on him. Because if he didn't, we'd be full of ourselves. At least I would. I don't know about you, but I would be full of myself. Even judgment or feeling less than. It's like my auntie said to me once, don't limit God's ability to bless you. When you feel less than, you're telling God, oh, you can't bless me. And I really want you to look at what is the root to that? Who planted that seed in the garden of your purpose? And why are you watering it to let it grow? Why are you allowing it to choke out the seed of your abundantly above all? Because if you don't take the time to really get clear and honor God with your heart, meaning you got to do the work. You've got to do the work to cultivate your heart as well. Because again, from your heart flows everything. So if you are feeling some kind of way about a person, a place, or a thing, check your heart. You can't do anything about what that person did to you, but you can do something about how you're allowing it to affect who you be. I want you to check what's flowing in your heart. So here are a couple other things to look at. So one, I said, do you take God seriously? Really, that was number one. We looked at looking at honoring God with your time, your talent, your treasure, and then looking at how you're honoring God with your heart. The second thing I need you to get, and that will really up-level you putting some respect on it, is are you taking your faith seriously? Faith is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it will go into atrophy. And sometimes it's trying to stay in comfort when your comfort and your conviction can never coexist. So when God has convicted you to do something, it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight. There'll be plenty of times you want to quit. How do I know? Because, baby, the number of times I wanted to quit. Listen to T.D. Jakes tell his story. He'd been doing this for 40 years. The number of times he wanted to quit. Tyler Perry, I'm sure if I call Tyler right now, he'd tell me the times he lived in his car when he was ready to quit. When I had the opportunity to work with Steve Harvey, he talked about the times he wanted to quit. There's no one that's done anything great that hasn't hit a bump in the road that's wanted to quit. That doesn't mean that they do quit. They had to check their heart and look at their motives and why are you doing this? If it's because you're trying to get status, you want to be seen, you want to make money, you want to have all these material things, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. Check your heart. When you're doing it to uplift the kingdom, that you can create meaning in this world. And when I'm talking about meaning, I'm talking about paying for your kids to go to college in cash. I'm talking about buying your parents a home in retirement or helping them retire. I'm talking about, things that create meaning in the world. Now, do I have designer things? Yes, I treat myself to that stuff too, but that's not my focus. So you really want to look at why are you doing what you're doing? So here's your homework as we up-level this. And I really want you to do this, and I'll talk to you about where we, part 2, we're going to dig deeper. So quick homework. And let me read this Bible verse first before I give you homework. It's Ephesians 3:17. Again, are you taking your faith seriously is what I want you to look at. That Christ may dwell in your heart through faith. That you, being rooted and grounded in love. I'm going to say that one more time. Ephesians 3:17. That Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. That you, being grounded and rooted in love. So faith and love activate together. When you love someone, you trust them. You know who they are. You know how they'll respond to certain things. And you know that they have your back. So the chapter on love in the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, they call this the greatest gift chapter. Read the whole chapter. We'll start part 2. I'll break it down some, but I really want you to understand this. If you're going to put some respect on it, if you're going to move past the love of money and put some respect and honor the gift, the purpose that God put in you, which is meant to multiply. It's meant to bring more good in this world. It's meant to bring good back to you, which is profit. Hello, gain. Listen, Mark 6:24 makes it clear. No one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon is what it is, but it's God and money. Even Jesus said in Mark 12:30, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and all your strength. See, God wants us to trust him. God wants us to activate all we've given him, and that's that trust. And some of you want it to be easy. You want it to, and the enemy keeps you at bay because he's using everything he knows that would keep you from it. Whether that's fear, whether that's guilt, whether that's shame, whether that's anger. Some of you are angry because your business isn't working. I get that too. But I need you to understand the glory on the other side of what you go through is bigger than anything you're going through right now. It's like, going through labor pains. When you have that baby, you forget all about the labor pains, don't you? Now, I've never had a baby, so I don't know this firsthand. But all my girlfriends talk about how wonderful it is. I'm like, girl, but you were just screaming and kicking. I was in a labor room with my best friend. I was like, girl, let me call your husband. I can't do this. But the glory on the other side of all the pain. And so God wants to see, are you worthy of it? God wants to see if you're going to work to grow it. He's done his part. It's time for you to do yours. So we'll continue. I'm going to give you the 5th step in part 2. Part 2 we do tomorrow morning, FPP breakfast. We do this every Tuesday morning. I dig deeper. And the thing I love about Clubhouse, I say this every week, don't I, is that I can actually hear your voice. So I'm going to invite you to join me in the morning as we dig deeper into, put some respect on it. Really looking at how do we up-level this love conversation, because if the love of money is the root of evil, then we got to shift our love and put some respect on who God is and honor him and glorify him in all we do. Again, there are 5 ways you honor God and put some respect on it. Number 1 is with your time. Number 2 is with your talent. Number 3 is with your treasure. And number 4 is with your heart. I'll walk through number 5 in FPP breakfast tomorrow. It's always my honor and privilege to be here with you, pouring more and more into you week after week, as we really look at how do you live out the assignment that God has put on your life. All of us are called. It's not just for people in the pulpit. All of us are called. And it's my assignment to hold the space that you get clear on it, that you cultivate it, and that you live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be all and make multiple streams of income while you do it. So with that, we'll continue the conversation tomorrow morning. I look forward to seeing many of you in Faith Purpose Profit Breakfast.com, 8:30 a.m. EST. Please share your value guide out of today. Please go and read your homework, 1 Corinthians 13, and we'll continue our conversation tomorrow morning and our FPP breakfast, all right? So with that, thank you for joining me. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.